scene we're going to do tonight is called Housekeeping. The words that the actresses are going to speak in the scene are seriously a recreation of a conversation that I had with a person who was talking about her workplace. And so I guess I'd like to acknowledge the fact that the people to whom these things really happened aren't here with us. And I really regret that, right? I wish that they could be here telling their own stories. But for many reasons, they can't. I think there's still great value in having other people serve as stand-ins and communicate their stories to us. Let you go.
So tell me about your housekeeping job.
Well, when I first started working there, they sat me down to watch a quick video, and then they put me to work. And they expected me to clean really fast, but I didn't know how to do anything. So they yelled and screamed at me, but I told myself, if this is what I have to do to provide for my children, I'll do it.
Did the other housekeepers help you or explain things to you?
No, we couldn't talk at work. If the manager, there was just one manager, if he saw you talking, he would scream and yell at us.
And how was that like?
Well,
Quiet.
I was just looking for some supplies.
Enough with the noise.
Okay,
Stick to the cleaning.
okay.
Finish your rooms!
The longer he screamed, the more his fist would shake and his face would turn red. But I worked well. Every day was like a nightmare working there.
What do you mean? What was the nightmare about?
Well, there was a lot of touching, grabbing, and invitations.
Sexual harassment?
See. So, while you were working there, you never knew what could happen to you. There was a manager there, a man with a wife and kids. He would go after all the señoritas, and if they didn't do what he wanted, he would threaten to take their jobs away.
Did he ever approach you?
Yes. So one day, he invited me to go out to eat with him. He said he wanted to get to know me better and spend some time alone with me. And if I didn't, he would take my job away and my husband.
And what did you do?
Well, I just laughed it off. And I said that there just weren't any restaurants in town that were good enough for me. But still, he persisted. So, one day, I got off work before my husband and him, and this manager, he followed me into the parking lot. He came up behind me, and he grabbed me, and, well, I was just looking for my keys when...
I know you want me. You always wanted me.
Leave me alone!
You're just playing hard to get.
Déjame!
Do you want to lose your job?
Claro que no, déjame.
Sí, ya vámonos.
Beatriz, I'm so sorry. Did you ever report this?
Are you kidding me? I didn't want to lose my job or my husband's.
Okay, so we will have time to reflect on the scene, but the first thing that we're going to do while we have it fresh in our head is we're going to try a sort of interactive tool that's called Sculpt a Tool. So given the situation that this worker is facing, we'd like to think of a tool or a concept that would have assisted her in her moment of greatest need. And so I'd like to invite any audience member who has an idea to come up. Would you like to stand, and would you like to come back, manager? If you could think of any sort of tool concept that would have been helpful to undo this sort of oppression, to upset this sort of violent connection in the workplace. I invite you to come up and to sculpt your body into the tool. I want to make one small statement, and that is that you can't do physical harm to our actors. The tool can't be something that would involve actually physical contact with the actors. But you can come in and do any sort of sculpture that would be something that would allow us to upset the chain of events. Can anybody think of anything? The idea would be to come on down. You don't have to articulate, you're just going to do it with your body. Show us with your body. Sculpt to your tool. But it has to be you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your body.
I would probably.
It's okay, you can set it. Okay, freeze your body with your tool. Does anybody else have a concept or a tool? We have a victim here who might be able to use some assistance. Sculpt your body into the tool or the concept that you think would have been more helpful. Anyone else? Anyone else? No other tools disponibles here? Okay, I'd like to ask you to tell us what tool are you?
I would probably strike, like do a picket line. Just, I know it's a great sacrifice, but I feel like I don't know, one of my favorite quotes by Cesar Chavez, who led the grape strike, was that like, you can no longer oppress the person who is not afraid anymore. So when the workplace and the abusive managers feel that they're being threatened, or that their money per se is being threatened, I feel like that kind of pushes other workers to gain that sense of courage and do the same and put pressure on their employers and raise their voices, because that silencing of the mujeres, the women, and everyone else in the workplace perpetuates that cycle of abuse, because the abuser or the oppressor knows that they're not going to do anything.
Okay. That was really good. Strike your pose again. What is your concept of your tool?
There's what I would.
Show us your tool and tell us. Yeah.
So there's what I would like to do, which would be like to try to rationally end the situation, but I know that my first reaction would be self-defense.
Show us.
And
Great.
Yeah, it would just. I know that for myself, I would try to protect my body, which probably wouldn't end well necessarily, but that would be where I would start.
Okay, strike your pose. And what are you representing? What's the tool?
Okay, so there's this jujitsu move where she could just grab his arm and break it.
I think those are really loud. For the audience who can see this from perhaps many different angles, do you notice anything about the constellation here? Is there anything remarkable about the way
No one's around her.
that jumps out at me? It jumps out at me.
They're all women.
That jumps out at me too. Let's go more slowly. Here stands our victim, right? And and none of the tools serve her directly. Isn't that kind of shocking? That our immediate response, I mean, you are saying self-defense, right? But it wasn't really self-defense, it was aggression against him, right? That's where you went, and your hands were going towards him, right? Do you have any other observations about how this constellation worked out? Is there any other material or resource in the scene, in the space, that might be useful?
Does it have to be a pose?
It has to be a concept or a tool. Are there any other?
Tool, I was thinking if she had a spray,
She could use her keys.
or her keys, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other resources yet?
I don't think this answers your question directly, but nobody's trying to get in between them.
I think that physically, the way that we see this play out, nobody tried to get between them. But then also when we think back to the context of what we saw, again, nobody tried to get in between them, right? Were there any other resources available at the workplace?
Oh, those two people.
Uh-huh.
What happened? I didn't really understand. Were they talking to her? Like, we're leaving?
She was in the
Oh.
parking lot,
Yeah.
giving her keys, right? And they entered the parking lot.
Oh, and then they just.
Well, I think with her karate chop and her breaking his arm, I don't think we really need to do
That's true. But I guess what stands is what we, this constellation that we did assume in the space here is kind of maybe where our comfort level stands when we think about undoing this kind of oppression. And I guess it's just something to reflect upon, right? Something to think about. Thanks, everybody. You were very great.